quality assured films.
Welcome back to QA Films Weekly. I'm Mike, and my pronouns are he and him.
And I'm Jon, and my pronouns are also he and him.
What week is it, Jon?
We are in the week of June 8th, which is summertime. Summertime. Remember that?
No.
It's where you get to swim or be outside.
What are those things? A lot happened in the last week since our last update, and I wanted to follow up on some of those things that we talked about. So I figured we once again would just jump right into the news.
Ooh, roll it. I said hot coffee. What's hard about that? Oh, we're on. Go.
All right, so I wanted to check in with the Black Lives Matter movement and what's happened since last week. I want to encourage everyone to get involved in your local government proceedings. Call your local officials, your township, your county, and your federal officials. Go to the meetings, leave them messages, leave them comments, call in. A lot of them are having Zoom sessions now, like we are. A couple notable ones from the last week. New York City did this, and Los Angeles did this. I encourage you to look up the videos of those sessions online. People waited for hours for their turn to speak, but they spoke their mind, and you get to hear people tell their own stories in their own words. Some of them have some really profound and traumatic experiences. Some of them are just really cathartically expressing their rage, and that is equally as satisfying. So look that up. One of the reasons I bring that up is we have some state reps here in Pennsylvania trying to use people's apathy to their benefit, where they're number one, they're trying to take our state governor to court because he doesn't want to end the state emergency declaration. Even though our state just had a rise in COVID cases and deaths, and we're opening things back up.
I know. That's the scary part. I know a lot of people are like, hey, whatever they say, I'll do it. So they hear, oh, some things are open. Now everyone's like, fuck it. The weather's nice. It's scary. I don't know if it was last week's episode or what, but I was telling you about how sometimes it feels hopeless to try to change things at the higher levels because of how fucking small we seem. But what you're talking about with the local things are exactly what impacts us directly. And I know that sounds cliche to say it, and people have said it all the time, but it really does. So going to these things, it might not be how you want to spend your evening, or, who cares if you can make a change where you are. That will then trickle down, or I guess in this case up to the other places. So it's a little hope, a glimmer of hope, if you will.
Agreed. For example, our county is having a Zoom meeting of the county commissioners, and a group of people is trying to get them ousted because they expressed support for the Black Lives Matter movement.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's alarming. People are really revealing their true selves. Anyway, so get involved locally.
Do it. Just do it.
You may be wondering, okay, but I don't know how to get involved. And that's why I'm trying to give some actionable items of go to the meetings. There will most likely be an opportunity where the public will have a chance to speak. And remember that these officials we elected and they work for us. You'll probably be muted when you join the call, but you just you click the raise your hand button, and when it's your time, you'll be unmuted and have a chance to speak. Let others in the community know that there are people like you out there willing to stand up for what is right and support your neighbors who might be Black and Indigenous, people of color. I know sometimes through all this, it can be easy to feel alone, but that is why it's can be important if you're able to go and join and get involved and see that there are more of us out there. keep going to protests if you're able to. Again, be smart, protect your data, protect your identity and that of your fellow protesters.
I love that since we last checked in, like, protests are still going strong. They keep going. I said this, I hope that the momentum will not slow down like it has in the past, and it doesn't feel like it is, so it's exciting.
There are going to be people who will try to push the narrative that things are returning to normal. People that are trying to enforce the status quo because they are trying to cling to their power as desperately as they can. It's going to be comfortable to you to want to return to what we knew as normal, because obviously what we're going through now of everyone reckoning with maybe their past ignorance or their past actions, or maybe coming to understand that the system itself is broken, is certainly uncomfortable. And it will be tempting to want to return to what we knew as normal, but there's no going back now. And so don't buy into that narrative that people will try to sell you, because they will try to sell it to you. You might see the coverage of people protesting die away. You may see headlines written by your newspaper that try to paint sidewalk chalk as vandalism. You're going to be seeing these things. Another example, I'm seeing everyone post the 8 Can't Wait campaign. And that campaign is all about reforming the existing structures of police. And pretty much all of the steps that it puts forth have been proven to not work and were already attempted to be implemented before this point.
Right.
And so I would rather direct you to a new website called 8 to Abolition, which was built as a response to that other campaign. And it really helpfully breaks down in a similar infographic style. It's really digestible. It's easy to link people to steps along the way to police and prison abolition. And that's 8, the number 8, to abolition.com. You can go check that out. And we'll put the link in the description. Keep donating. And if you can't donate, keep sharing the links. Keep signing petitions, bail funds, mutual funds. I've seen in the last week, especially, so many more GoFundMes and PayPals and Cash Apps for individuals, whether that be organizers or people involved in protesting. We kind of mentioned this last week, but there's a lot of supplies that protesters need. There's a lot of individuals that were involved in protests that have either been arrested or injured defending people. There were reports of white supremacists going out and trying to kill these people, and some of them were injured very severely, and they have hospital bills that can use your attention. So I updated the link list in the description, so go down there and check that out after the video and see where else you can donate to.
Awesome.
John, last time you asked me what would we do instead of having police and prisons. And although I still need to do a lot more reading, I did a little bit this past week as I was able to. And I've seen a lot of people respond to that with the question assumes that we are being protected now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like police and prisons are the overwhelming perpetrators of violence and murder. And in privilege, that's hard to wrap our minds around, because our white privilege allows us to think of the police as a benevolent force because we benefit from the system of white supremacy. And part of the comforting narrative that I was talking about earlier was I've seen people co-opting the defund the police demand as saying that, well, we're not going to get rid of the police. They'll just be highly specialized, and we're gonna we're gonna delegate and retask their other responsibilities that they don't have training for, like responding to a mental health crisis. But we're still gonna keep the police, and I want to go on the record and say no. Defunding the police is not just the end. The idea is not to just take a little bit of money away from them and leave them as they are, and that would be a reform. The goal is 100% abolition. Defunding is a step towards that goal. We kind of briefly talked about this last week, but reallocating funding to go back into community services.
Right.
I think another answer to your question is that there's not going to just be one thing that takes the place of police and prisons. In other words, there's not going to be some kind of, once we dismantle these things, we're not going to build them back up again, but just a little different. It's going to look more like I've heard the word constellation, but a full network of solutions. Will some of that include community defense, which might respond to more serious, violent, I don't know the right word to use. I hesitate to use crime. But, people immediately jump to, well, what if someone, breaks into my house or whatever? And when was the last time that someone broke into your house and the police actually helped you catch the guy to be as the number one?
Yeah.
But number two, the whole goal is to fund the community services that drive down the root cause of the reason that these things exist. There's going to be a whole network of services that come together. There's not going to be just one thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
To illustrate my point probably better than I can, I found a really good YouTube video that explains one possible way that might look, and I'm going to put that in the description so you can check it out.
Nice. I saw that since we last checked in, I don't know if it was it Sesame Street teamed up with CNN or something to do a town hall where they literally taught children about racism. And if you're curious, like how you can speak to your child or children, that's a great method. And another glimmer of hope, if you will, because these companies are speaking out and are making it known that they're against this injustice. But I think it was you that said it best when you said, yeah, put your money where your mouth is too. Like, it's great and all to, for Nickelodeon to have that awesome scrolling of saying Black Lives Matter. And I do appreciate these small steps that they're doing. Let's just take it another giant leap forward, because that's how change happens.
Definitely agree. We've also seen the last week newspaper editors, the New York Times, other CEOs, for example, CEO of Reddit, there's a list, resigning, and that's great. Keep that going. But really what these places need to do is hire Black and Indigenous people of color, feature the voices of Black and Indigenous people of color, pay them. Corporations are not our friends, and they will pander to us in any way that they think will continue making them a profit. And so that's why we say, just saying it is great, but if you don't actually, just like you said, if you don't put your money where your mouth is and you don't actually take action and make a change, then that's not good enough. Yep. There's a really good video out this week from the Well, There's Your Problem podcast, which is a podcast about engineering disasters with slides. But they talked about this week the history of newspaper and kind of the decline of printed media and the systemic racism in that industry, keeping Black and Indigenous people of color out. So I'm going to put that link in the description also. Encourage you to listen to that.
Since our last check-in, I was also reading that the Minneapolis Police Department may be dismantled. I mean, I know that there's a committee for the city council there that says that they're making it a vow or a promise that they're going to look into that and figure out how to do that. which even that alone, I was like, what? So I'm curious to see what comes of that, and if it's just all talk. Hopefully not.
I agree. I think it was a big statement, especially as the city that sparked this movement right now, and hopefully an example. But as you said, the work is not done. They were very careful to explain to everyone that it's not something that's going to happen overnight. Just like we were talking about, the way the replacement is not going to be just one thing. It's going to be this big network of community services. And so they explained that the reason they're not just saying, yes, it's done, the reason they're saying we are intending to is going to be this process of budget meetings and reallocating funds and setting up all these services and rolling them all out. And so I think that's also important to say, is that I think people think that this is going to be an overnight thing. And unfortunately, it's not going to be that easy. Once we commit to do these things, we're in it for the long haul. It's important to not lose hope because of that. That once we start doing the work, it's going to be hard, but obviously it'll be worth it. And again, that's why it's so important that we need to go to our city council meetings and hold these people accountable.
Exactly. Yep.
And then we can work on dismantling capitalism.
Ooh, I'm all for that.
Yes. There's a really good John Oliver video on the Last Week Tonight, his show. I don't think that he goes far enough, but I hope as he is doing more reading, we'll leave a little room for character development for him to learn more. I'm obviously still learning more, but I think the video is a good jumping off point for us. Send to our friends or family members to kick off that conversation. One thing I think he did really well, which I was surprised was in the video, was he talked about police unions. Normally, unions are good. The police union, very bad. So, recommend watching it specifically for that reason.
I love him. The Olsen twins are just one twin moving really, really fast.
That is all of my updates since last week. Obviously, another thing that it's important to talk about is taking a break to refuel. This is a lot of very involved, very heavy, very intense emotional and mental labor kind of work. I guess labor is work. My point is that it's also important to take a break and refuel and step away and make sure that you're rested and energized to keep fighting. With that said, have you watched anything this week that you might want to talk about that you watched maybe when you were taking a break?
Let's see. Well, I finally got into only an episode in so far to the Amazon original series Tales from the Loop, which is really cool. It's another one of those like anthology shows similar to Black Mirror, where each episode is kind of like its own story. But I feel like I haven't gotten past the first one. Each one is still within the same town or the same world, where it's just trippy. But I will say this though, it's one of those like slow burn shows where not everyone's gonna like it. You might be sitting there going, "All right, fucking, what's going on? I'm confused." Like, speed it up. But it's worth the wait, and that's been a nice little escape. And of course, this week we had a couple trailers come out. Which one I wanted to talk about really quick is the Jurassic World Dominion. Chris Pratt and the gang are back at it, sign languaging with the Raptors. And I bring that up because if you remember, Mr. Mike, you approved Jurassic World right along with me, sir. I'll never let it go.
Okay, this is your revenge for me constantly bringing up Blade Runner.
I feel worse about denying Blade Runner.
We were young and dumb, okay? It's okay to change your mind about things.
Right.
That is not where I thought you were going. You intentionally faked me out with that. I thought you were going to say Bill and Ted Face the Music.
No, I figured I would give that one to you just because
oh, thanks.
I know the passion you have.
I love Bill and Ted.
Oh wait, we could
what?
I was gonna say we could transition to it differently. I thought we were gonna cut, so I'm like, you can just say it over again, and I'm so stuck in editing mode. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm trying to not cut all these episodes.
My brain. Clip, zoom. Clip, zoom.
Oh,
Yes, but yes, tell us about Bill and Ted's Face the Music.
I'm so excited. I was a little apprehensive when they showed up in prison. Boy, I hope they tackle that with nuance.
Yep.
But just seeing Keanu and Alex Winter say "dude" to each other again brought such joy to my heart. I'm like so excited for that movie.
I know, me too, and I'm surprised that it's happening. I mean, I know Keanu Reeves is a cool dude from what we see in the news and all that stuff. So a part of me still thought like he would be like, I'm not fucking doing that again. I'm over that. But no, he's embracing it, and rightfully so. That was such a great series. I mean, I haven't watched it in so long. I wouldn't mind going back, especially in preparation for the new one.
Definitely. We should do that. We should make that a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. That would definitely be on my all-time favorite movies list.
Yeah. Which one? The first one or the second one?
Well, I was just about to say that the sequel, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, the rare sequel that is good. So don't skip that one. I think maybe it's not as classic as the first one, but it is good. It does not suck.
Yeah.
We
didn't get to talk about this last week because our last week's episode was devoted specifically to what was going on with this movement. But we did hear the news, and I know you're happy right along with me, of J. Jonah Jameson, Mr. J.K. Rowling.
Nope.
J.K. Simmons has agreed to reprise his role as J. fucking Abrams in the MCU.
Your brain is just melting down right now.
Too many J's. I don't know.
J.K. Rowling is a TERF.
Yo, what the fuck, J.K.?
Yeah.
Oh.
I know there are Harry Potter fans out there. Daniel Radcliffe, I think, issued a fucking amazing statement in response to her. I encourage you to go read that. As a known non-Harry Potter fan, there are other books that you can read. You'll be fine. You'll be fine without it. I think Dan Rad said it better than I could, so just go read what he said.
Nice. But yeah,
what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, it's all right. J.K. Simmons will be back as our favorite lovable Parker in future Spider-Man movies.
Oh, good. That's
Plural.
good.
Yeah. There's only one other thing I have before we move on. Did you hear about the Punisher, the creator of the Punisher comic and character?
Oh, I saw a headline that he is starting was it a fundraiser?
Yeah, some sort of fundraiser or some sort of organization with the Black Lives Matter movement to take back the Punisher's skull, the symbol of the Punisher, from the police. Because a lot of police use that shit.
They embrace it as the idea of them having the power of an extrajudicial killing.
Oh, God.
That they are judge, jury, and executioner.
Right. They are the law. I am the law. I thought the quote that he had was perfect. He said, the Punisher represents the failure of the justice system. So it's like, why the fuck are these idiots using it? So I thought that was kind of cool. That's all I got for news. You got anything else?
Not for news. I had some things that I watched that we could talk about.
Let's do it.
Okay.
We already left the news earlier when you asked me if I was escaping.
That's what I thought.
Fuck! So what have you been watching to escape this fucking dimension we're in?
I have been watching and finishing a couple series that I had on my plate for a while. One of which is She-Ra. I finished it. It's so fucking good. I can't say enough nice things about it. You need to it is definitely a show about a group of diverse people of all body shapes and sizes and colors banding together to bring a spark of hope, trying to fight back against like a giant institution. And so I really needed that encouragement. And I was very happy with the way they I definitely think they stuck the landing on the ending. Can't say enough nice things about it. I just wanted to follow up on that because I know I brought up She-Ra before. I finished it now. It's great.
And that's the end of it. There's no more seasons coming out?
As far as I know, I mean, they left it open that if they return that they can, but I think it would be fine. It's funny because Kevin Smith was going to, at least before COVID, there was a lot of news about him having his own He-Man series, that they were going to reboot the He-Man cartoon. She-Ra is a spinoff of He-Man. Yeah. But I was like, who cares?
I know.
I also watched an anime on Netflix, which is called Doro, which is about a giant man with a lizard head and his friends. They live in this impoverished area that is preyed upon by the upper class, who exploit them and treat them as less than human and practice their magic on them. The main character, the lizard head guy, and his friends fight back against them. That's just a very basic premise, but the world building in this show is so fucking good. And I don't know if it was one of those, I'll have to look up more. I don't know if it was one of those things where Netflix just bought the rights to be able to slap their name on it, but
right.
Or if they had a hand, if they anyway, my point is that the show was definitely made knowing that this was going to be on a streaming service. And so there are a lot of elements of the show that are definitely built for multiple watches, or to get to entice you to actually watch the opening and ending sequences with the credits. They're constantly changing. They're constantly updating and giving you information that you would miss if you skipped over it. And those are just some small things that I like about it. But that was definitely another escape to a different world, and further catharsis seeing these working class people fight back against their oppressors. So more encouraging entertainment while I've been taking a break.
Yeah, it almost sounds like maybe it wasn't that big of a break, because it was still related to what's going on. Let's move into what we are doing, what QA Films is doing.
We talked a big game about actions you can take. We posted our statement about supporting Black Lives Matter and us taking a stance, being anti-racist, being anti-fascist. We didn't really talk about what we at QA Films are doing.
Oh, right.
In terms of our website, in terms of our show. So I wanted to just talk about that a little bit. Just to preface a little bit, you may have noticed, not you, John, but you, the viewer, may have noticed over the last few years, we've made a serious concerted effort to seek out, watch, and review and talk about movies from Black and Indigenous people of color. But that wasn't really enough, because I think we were definitely still in that mindset of well, I'm not a racist,
right,
as opposed to being anti-racist, and really putting forth the effort to educate ourselves on that type of material. I think we were, I mean, I know I didn't necessarily say this to you yet, but we posted a list that this person, Victoria Alexander, put together of anti-racist movies, TV, books, etc., to help educate ourselves. And what I would like to do is, as we work through that list, I would like to have episodes dedicated to some of those pieces of media where we can spotlight them and focus on them and maybe talk about some of the things that we took away from them, and really make that a ongoing part of our channel.
Yeah, I think that would be great. It's literally what we're preaching. We now practice it. So I'm down 100%.
Awesome. So what are some other QA Films housekeeping items as we start to wrap up here?
Well, we finally released our very first episode of a 2020 film. So I'm very excited for that. It's still over Zoom. We're still doing the social distancing as we should be, and you should be at home. But Birds of Prey, our 82nd episode, is finally out right now. So check that out. It's kind of a return to format, if you will, with the trailers and all that and the visuals, which I love. Like, I love editing. I love adding all the funny stuff. So.
And more 2020 episodes are on the way. We have a bunch queued up for you. So make sure to keep coming back and hit the bell icon and subscribe to get notified when the next ones come out.
Yes.
Where else can people find us, John?
That's a great question. We are everywhere. In fact, if you look under your bed right now, assuming you're in your room, you'll see me. No, we're on everything. We're on Instagram at QA_films. We're on Facebook, facebook.com / or / whatever one you want to use. One will work, one won't. Quality Assured Films. We are also on
our email.
Yes. Oh my God. How could I forget? Because nobody's sending anything. Why?
Send us an email at qualityassuredfilms@gmail.com. What we really want to hear from you about is if we recommended something and you watched it and liked it, please send that our way at qualityassuredfilms@gmail.com.
Can't wait. We will read your email. Even if you send an email that says test in all caps, we will read it. I've been seeing a lot of comments on the weekly episodes, which is great to see. So I know they're a little longer, but that's okay. We all have a little more time, don't we? So why not spend it with two people that aren't pieces of shit?
I'm trying anyway.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so to wrap up this weekly episode, again, I encourage you to donate. If you can't donate, share the links out there. Keep educating yourself. Keep taking action.
COVID-19, folks, let's talk about that for a moment. It's still not over. So everything we say and everything you've been hearing, wear your masks. If you're going out in public, stay away from each other if you can. Seeing all of these people that just want to go back to the normal is terrifying because it's only going to prolong how long it takes us to get back to the normal. So
yeah, I mean there's no normal to go back to.
Right.
This is the new world that we live in, and so as comforting as it might be to do the things you used to do, that is only going to make things worse. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
If you're going to any protests, again, be careful. Stay safe, protect your data and your identity and that of those around you. And both non-essential and essential workers, you deserve to be paid.
Right, absolutely.
Demand that for yourself.
And healthcare workers, my sister Cassandra, thank you so much for what you're doing. People on the front line, volunteers, everyone that continues day in and day out to help fight this fucking horrible virus, we thank you. Well, I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
And we are
Quality Assured Films. See you next week.
See you later.